Howdy everyone. I'm going to do a little recap here real quick so far of what I've done. I'm not going to cover everything in detail. I just want to go over a few things. So first of all, you really need to pay very, very close attention to the bolt size and the hole diameters and what are through bolts and what gets threaded for bolts. So the holes that go through the mounting brackets into your fuselage framework, these are 1/4 inch through holes. These get regular AN bolts with nuts and washers on the backside. The skin in this location, these are drilled and dimpled for a number 8 screw. All right. Moving over to the brackets. Here is one of my finished brackets, and you can see, like I had talked about before, I did not pre-drill these as per the plans. In the video that you just watched, hopefully, I talked about how I had these real world in place, bolted to the fuselage with the cabin frame bolted to it. And then I went ahead and drilled the holes through the bracket and into the frame, or in this case on the inside, I drilled through the frame and into the bracket. So I was able to place the holes more where I wanted them to be, which made sense for my particular installation. So these holes here, this is the outside bracket. So this is the outside leg, and you can see how it's shaped. Hopefully you can see how it's kind of tapered to match the fuselage skin. So this bracket then gets these 2 holes here. These have to be countersunk to mate with the dimple that's on the skin. These 2 holes, these will get countersunk, but only for a number 10 screw head. So these 2 countersinks should be a little bit smaller than these, because these have to be bigger to accept the dimpled skin. These just need to be big enough to accept the number 10, which is 3/16 flathead, countersunk flathead screw. These holes that capture the skin, these are threaded, as are the holes in the frame. These 2 holes are just through holes. On the inside, again, these are 3/16 holes, but these are for bolts. They're not countersunk screws. So these are just through holes for 3/16 bolts. So again, these 2 countersunk for the skin dimple. These 2 will be countersunk just for a 3/16 flathead screw. These 2 are just through holes for bolts. So you have to pay attention, and there are the 2 1/4 inch bolt holes. So you need to pay real close attention to your screws, your bolts, what gets countersunk, what does not, how deep to countersink, because you either need to countersink for a dimple or you need to countersink for a screw head, things of that nature. Now, when you're done drilling, you need to deburr these inside holes, and what I like to use is just a countersink, and I can put this in here, and I can turn this by hand to deburr these inside holes. If I come over to the frame, it's the same thing. Here are my holes. This is on the inside of the frame. I've got 2 through holes here. And then on the outside of the frame, I've got these 2 holes pick up the skin. The bracket mounts on the outside and it's contoured to match the skin. These two holes are small holes that are tapped. The bracket that fits over top, these two holes are countersunk on the bracket because they need to accept a dimple for the skin. These two holes are 3/16 and they are through holes. But again, on the outside bracket, these holes get countersunk for screw heads. So these two countersunk for dimpled skin, these two countersunk for screw heads, only on the outside bracket. And then again, I could use my that countersink reaching through this hole and through here. I'm able to get in here with that countersink and deburr these holes on the inside. Make sure you clean everything really well. You've got these straps that are in here on the inside. You're going to get metal shavings between the strap and these pieces here. Make sure you clean that out really well. Try to deburr in between them as best you can. I just take a flat blade. It's almost like a spatula type of thing. Something like this. It's just a flexible blade, spatula type of thing. I'll run this in between parts to clean out shavings and try to knock down some burrs. But make sure you clean those really well in between where the strap, these inside straps and the outside parts. Make sure you clean in there really well. Everything, of course, gets deburred and edge finished. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, by hand, I'm going to use my drill stop. And I'm going to countersink these two holes for the appropriate screws, which I have right here. So these two holes, again, these two holes are small and they're threaded. And the countersink is big enough to accept the skin dimple. These two holes are 3/16 and they're going to get countersunk big enough for this head. And then the brackets will be done. The frame is already complete. So after I get these countersunks, the machine countersinking finished, I'm going to bring this whole assembly back over to the airplane. I'm going to fully install it. I'm going to bolt the brackets down to the fuselage. I'm going to cleco the skin. I'm going to bolt the skin. Of course, I'll have the frame in place, and then I'm going to start match drilling these holes back here for this part and the spacer that's up in here. So that's the plan. Moving forward, talk to you guys later. Alright, so I misspoke in the earlier video. So now I've got my holes countersunk on the bracket that I was just discussing. And these two countersinks are actually going to be slightly smaller. These two countersinks are for the skin's dimples. These are holes that are for a number 8 screw, and the skin is dimpled for a number 8 screw. So these countersinks are going to be a little bit smaller than these two. These two get countersunk big enough for the head of a 3/16 screw. So here's the flathead screw. It's 3/16 in diameter. And these are countersunk deep enough for that. So these will be a little bit larger. And don't forget, obviously, you need to change your countersink bit for the 3/16 holes. All right, so smaller for the skin dimples because these are number 8 screws, larger for the screw head because these are 3/16 screw head countersinks. And change your countersink bit to match. All right, let me get this thing put together. Alrighty, so I am finally done fitting this cabin frame or the canopy frame to the rest of the airplane. So the next or the last step after having this mounted to the fuselage, at least the order that I decided to do it. Once I had this bolted to the fuselage, I went ahead and match drilled and finish drilled this piece in place. So starting it back here, up underneath in here, there's a spacer. And that spacer is pre-punched. This piece is pre-punched. And what you do is you cleco it in place along the bulkhead and you drill it. And then you can go ahead and drill these tabs here into the bulkhead as well. And then ultimately you have your little L brackets here that get match drilled to this frame and to this piece. And then you drill this piece to your L bracket across the top. So once I had that done, once I had these drilled through the bulkhead, through the spacer that's underneath here, and through this piece, I took this completely out. And then I clecoed the spacer to this piece using these holes that I just drilled. And then that allows me to drill the holes that attach the spacer to this piece. And that will make sense when you look at the plans. So now everything is drilled to size, everything is matched, and everything is now clecoed in place. And of course, the frame itself is in place. Here are the 2 screws that are exposed. These will be visible as they are now. And again, the skin is dimpled for a number 8 screw. And then the heavy metal bracket here is countersunk to accept the skin dimples. And then these holes are just tapped. There are no nuts on the back side. And then on the back half of this same aluminum bracket, the back half of this bracket back here, there are 2 3/16 or number 10 countersunk screws. The bracket has to be countersunk for the heads of those screws, and then those screws go through the heavy metal bracket through the frame, and they've got nuts on the back side. And then of course when you put this skin on, this skin covers those. So these are the only 2 that are left exposed. So that's it. This is done, except for, I almost forgot. So when the time comes, I am going to obviously dimple this skin, and I'll have to dimple the bulkhead to accept the dimpled skin. But you'll remember that there's that spacer that's up underneath here. So that spacer is going to have to be countersunk to fit the dimple of the bulkhead. So there's the bulkhead flange that is under here. This skin gets dimpled. The flange of the bulkhead gets dimpled for this dimple to nest into. And then the spacer that's under here is also going to have to be dimpled so it can lay flat on the bulkhead flange. And the other note is, you can see by the color of the clecos that there are actually 8 holes here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These 8 are number 4 diameter flathead rivet. The rest of these, of course, are a number 30. So these are a number, or I have that backwards. These are number 30, the larger size, -4. One more time. These are a number 30 drill, and they end up being a -4 diameter flathead rivet. And then the rest of these are your typical number 40 drill, which is the -3 diameter size rivet. So just keep in mind, when you go to dimple the skin and when you go to dimple this bulkhead, the flange of this bulkhead here, these 8 are going to be for a number 4 flathead rivet, and the rest will be your standard -3. And then I believe these are also going to be flat head countersunk. So the long L bracket that's underneath here that's already riveted to this piece, those 4 holes will have to be dimpled, or I'm sorry, will have to be machine countersunk to accept the dimple that's in this. And I believe these 2 holes and these 2 on both sides, I believe those are domed. And I believe these two here and the 2 on the other side, I believe those are dome head. One last thing, I was watching one of my videos, just going through it a couple days ago. I was basically just looking at the quality of it while it's on the YouTube channel. And I said that these inside rivets are domed, that you did not have to countersink this bottom inside radius because these are all going to be domed. And obviously that is totally incorrect. You have to countersink all the rivets on this piece. Both rows at the top and both rows along this inside all have to be countersunk because the whole thing takes flush head rivets. So, you know, I'm human. I screw up. So that's that. I believe that's all I've got to talk about with this at the moment. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do next. I got to rivet some skins on the wings so I can start fitting the wings. But before I do that, I think I'm going to completely remove this entire assembly. I'm not going to do my countersinking, and I'm not going to do my dimpling on this skin until I get ready to actually put this on and rivet it for good. This all gets riveted together in here. You can't unbolt anything. So I'm not going to countersink anything right now. I'm not going to dimple anything, but I am going to take this completely off. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to take this cargo bulkhead barrier, if you will, this back wall. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to vacuum everything really, really well. These couple of holes that are through this bulkhead, I got to deburr those on the back side. I got to deburr them on the front side. And then I think I'm going to start back in on modifying the flaps. So my kit came with electric flaps in here. The electric actuator goes in here, and then the actual flap mechanism runs across here. I'm converting it to manual flaps. So I think that's what I'm going to start on next. After I get this assembly out of the way, get that bulkhead out, get everything cleaned, then I'm going to come back and I think I'll start working on the manual flap conversion. So that should be pretty cool. I'm kind of excited to dive into that. So as always, thanks for stopping by, and I would appreciate some comments if you have them, the like button, the bell, you know the drill, all the hooey. If you'd be so kind, I'd appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys later.